Episode 7 of Gen V was recently released, and like how Episode 6 was what I described as the perfect episode, this one was probably the most important one, and it quite literally changed everything for good. Not only the narrative inside of Gen V, but also what we're most likely going to be going on to see in Season 4 of The Boys. So in this video, I thought I'd break down and explain exactly how and why this episode changed everything. So let's get into it. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The divide in the group and the impact of Shetty's death. In the closing moments of the episode, we saw one of the most shocking and consequential moments in the entirety of the series so far. This was Dean Shetty meeting her end at the hands of, well, her own hands, but influenced by Cate. Cate didn't have to go to the extent that she did in wiping out Shetty and killing her on the spot. She could have continued to have had her under the influence of the mind control and gone to the authorities, or even the team at Vought that had no clue that she was working on the virus, and she would have been punished in a way that they seemed fair. Albeit, it probably would have been pretty brutal anyway and had quite a bit of suffering, because we know what Vought can be like. The plan to wipe out an entire species and a species of soups is something that would most probably not go down well with the likes of the Seven. Cate didn't allow that to even be a possibility, and even when Shetty had hurt herself, Cate didn't allow Marie to save her. Something which she would have been able to have done due to her blood manipulating abilities. Plus, we also saw Marie quite literally save the life of somebody in episode 1 of the show who had a very similar injury. However, Cate did what she apologized for in the previous episode, where she felt guilty for using her powers on her closest friends, and she did it on Marie again, showing that she can't be trusted, and that she stepped over a line. However, what this moment's going to do for the season finale and the future of the show is incredible. Cate didn't express a heroic mindset or highlight that she would use her powers for good moving forward. She ultimately became the monster, the very thing that her mother thought she was, by striking first as she said she wanted to. Rather than looking at it with a more diplomatic mindset, she made an evil human end things for themselves in a horrific way without facing justice. Shetty wasn't good by any means, but it could have been handled differently and not in a brutal fashion like how she forced it to be. Something that it seems as though many of the other individuals in the group thought too, as they tried to save Shetty. However, the only person that agreed with Cate was Sam. They shared a small look at one another after Sam said that Shetty being killed was justice, and that small look is going to be something that not only marks the start of the divide in the group, but it will most likely bring around deadly consequences for people in the season finale. It very much looks like Sam and Cate are going to be entering the woods in the season finale and releasing the soups that were held captive there and being tested on. With this shot from the original trailer showing a girl in the grey tracksuit that they're forced to wear whilst being held captive in the woods, being free and running down the streets and utilising their laser vision on somebody just passing by. They probably have the same pent-up hatred towards people, just like what Sam did when he first left, so it's going to have deadly consequences for sure. With some of these soups maybe even having traces of the virus within them, the virus that is said to be extremely deadly to soups could find itself on the streets, and Cate and Sam could unleash something into the world that will have much greater consequences than they could have ever imagined. I imagine that will most likely mean that Marie, Jordan, Emma and Andre will be facing off against Cate and Sam at some point, and the relationship and dynamic of the group will never be the same again, maybe even resulting in a death. Something which would be brave of the show to do, and I'd respect it if they did it, but they'll definitely not be the same regardless after the decision that Cate made in the final part of the episode, the releasing of the virus. So I just mentioned how with Cate and Sam teaming up at the end of the episode and it looking like they're going to be releasing individuals from the woods, it could mean that the virus could get out into the public. However, right at the end of this episode, with Neuman taking the virus off of Dr. Cardosa, it was the biggest indicator that the virus is going to be impacting the future storyline of not only Gen V, but also The Boys. Neuman may have the virus, but Mallory knows about it, and there was also somebody that was on the receiving end of the hidden phone call that Mallory had going on when Shetty revealed all information about the virus. So that could mean that either the CIA could know about it, or maybe somebody from The Boys could. This means that the fact that the virus is out there is not only the biggest problem, but the fact that others know about it too is just as problematic. This means that we could see the likes of Mallory looking to get a hold of it, or even Neuman or the boys looking at different ways of weaponizing it as a way of potentially taking down Homelander. If you think about it, in the past couple of seasons of The Boys and now Gen V, we've seen that Homelander can be defeated. They're slowly showing us that there is a weakness to the character, such as using Soldier Boy's blast, but now also most likely with this virus too. So it being outside of the woods, a once contained facility, and now being in the hands of somebody who could develop it further, they could also look to create some kind of immunity to it and inflict it onto those who they want to take out, whilst also having the threats of others coming after it. The state of that world has definitely been changed for good following the end of this episode. Andre and Polarity uniting. Andre and his father have been on two different sides of the fence when it comes to understanding what being a hero means. Polarity looked at it in a way of being a celebrity and having the image, whereas Andre just wants to be able to do good and be recognized for what he's done for the world and the people in it, hence why Polarity wasn't prepared to speak up on the woods or let his son get involved in it, as he wanted the best for him. This was something that marked a big divide between them in this season, and it meant that they drifted apart. However, in this episode, we saw that with Polarity having some kind of health issue, Andre was by his side, and he put being with his father first over going to deal with the issues with Shetty. I think this could have been done for a couple of different reasons. If Polarity pulls through, I think we could see him change sides and look to speak out against Ford, the woods, and the work that was being done. His newfound change in heart will most likely be something that puts him on the side of his son, rather than his colleagues and contacts that have allowed him to have a privileged position at Godolkin. This is something that I think will have deadly consequences for Polarity though, as I believe they'll look to make an example of him for trying to step away from his position. Or, if Polarity doesn't pull through out of the hospital, I think we'll see an anger and rage inside of Andre, and a feeling that is centered around him not being able to forgive himself for distancing himself from his father and not being near him in his final moments. This is something that I think could be expressed outwards, so he could be like a ticking time bomb, and destruction could be on his side too. With Ashley originally being fearful of the woods being exposed at the start of episode 2, it's something that's definitely coming out one way or another in the season finale. This episode quite literally paved the way for the season finale, and also for The Boys season 4 when it does return. Episode 6 was perfect, this one was the most important. I just wonder what that means for the season finale. Maybe it'll be the best, but I guess we'll see with that. So, there you have it. Why Gen V Episode 7 is the most important one. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Do you think this episode changed everything? Leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.